Hello DragonSoul fans, this is ErgotProxy coming to you with a dose of the usual DragonSoul tips and tricks. And so I'm starting a new feature called the Toon profile, where I'm going to talk about essentially the strengths and weaknesses of a given character, the appropriate ways to rune them, and great matchups where they can be useful in Temple, Crypt Raid, etc. All right, so first and foremost, let's talk about Mr. Golden Genie. So those of you that have been playing the game for a while are aware of the fact that he's pretty much a golden cannon, or really a glass cannon, because he takes pretty heavy damage and may not be useful, especially if a ninja dwarf gets in your back line and starts going off, or if potentially a skeledeer is back there running rampant. A number of things could take the genie down. So let's talk about runes and ways to maximize his power. So as you can see, I've got a tree set and an ocean set on him. This is one of the few Toons that does just a ton of physical damage with an ocean set. So if you actually look at his skills, they're listed in green, so they're modified by skill, power, and intellect. But as you can see, they are all physical damage, right? And they're all bashing damage, in fact. So, looking at the kinds of runes that would be great for this guy that's got physical and bashing damage, his magic resist is pretty high, so is his armor. And if you take a look at the dsbazoon.ru site, you see Ocean and the Blood set is recommended for him. Blood obviously for lifesteal, Tree and River, and then super stats, you've got skill, power, lifesteal, armor penetration, and bashing damage, starting energy, attack speed, and then stuff down here that will make him essentially less of a glass cannon, etc. Okay, so how should we rune this guy and what kind of bonuses are we looking for? We'll mention right away, my genie is not ideal, but you know, when it's time to really build him up, it'll be fine. I decided to give him tree runes for now, just because he isn't terribly strong. And the more health he has, the more he's going to be able to use his lifesteal to fill up that health. All right, so instead of just going with a straight up lifesteal set, I've got a lifesteal rune for him, but I would probably recommend going with a blood set for him instead of these particular runes that I've got. But it really depends on where you've got lifesteal present. So armor penetration is great for him because he does tons of physical damage, coupled with lifesteal and fury is awesome for Genie. Bashing damage here, starting energy just to get him off. And Fury, down here I've got Lifesteal and Tenacity and Fury. Disables are wasted on him. So obviously I still need to do some work on my Genie. He's got health, armor penetration, growth, and starting energy, so his keystone's okay, but it could be better, and I will be replacing it, hopefully with something that features Lifesteal. Here he's got some magic resist, tenacity, cooldown reduction, and lifesteal, also not an ideal rune. So if you just look back here, you really want him with as much skill power as possible. So what I'll be doing is replacing this rune with a skill power rune. None of these are going to be great, but if I'm going to be retuning him with a blood set, we might find something that would work, like skill power and tenacity would work well there. Looking at this side, this is a very nice rune for him. We've got skill power growth, we've got lifesteal built in there, and some magic resist. That's not a great category for him. As you can see, It's not listed here anywhere. However, it's not the worst category to have on a Toon, especially considering that his magic resist from his gear is 288. That tiny bump can't hurt. His armor is 377, and that's really why you see that on this site, the armor is all the way down there, because you really don't need too much armor, and if the gear that's on your Toon is going to provide that armor, you can focus on things like skill power growth. So in redoing this guy, a smart thing to do would be to consider swapping in some blood runes, especially for potentially this spot here, and if we're taking out trees, these could be blood runes, or potentially take this out for a blood rune, take these guys out and replace one with a blood and one with ocean. So just looking at quickly at ocean runes that are available for him. Nothing terribly exciting here. We can check the other side to see if there would be a good fit if we went blood here and there. Armor penetration growth, that's an excellent thing for him, but the toxic and improve don't work great. Looking at some of the other ones, there's armor penetration growth and cooldown reduction secondary, but the tertiary bonuses are wasted on him. So just looking at a few more. Armor penetration with water, also not great. So again, I don't really have the appropriate runes to make a big switch for him right now, but when I do, he'll be equipped either with a tree set and an ocean set, or with a blood set and an ocean set. And I'm going to have skill power in both top runes. Okay, so that's the rune breakdown for the Genie. Let's take a look at ways he's particularly useful. So, since obviously once he goes off, he is hard to stop, one way to utilize him is in situations where you're going to have a wave 2. So that would be in Colosseum, that would be in Temple, and in Expedition you have multiple waves. So if you can get him charged up early enough, especially if you have a Medusa that will let your Toons store extra energy with her legendary skill, then you can actually make a lot of use in Genie and Expedition, especially for some matchups that are otherwise difficult. So in this case, you can see this is level 4 of Ludicrous, and we've got a fairly tough lineup. We've got the Witch empowering a Corgi, which is already dangerous, and you got extra power coming from the Bard, and since you've got the Witch giving everyone movement speed, everyone's going to get to the front line fast and get a quick attack on. Thief is going to absorb any damage you throw at her, being that she's going to cast Misdirection really quickly due to the movement bonuses from the Witch and the Bard. And of course you've got Raging Revenant here, who is going to be causing all sorts of magic damage and havoc and playing with everyone's health and his own. So it's a bit of a tough nut to crack sometimes, but I've got plenty of weapons here that are charged up. I could go with a defensive strategy and go with magic damage. I could have my Thief just chuck something at them, but it's level 4, it's early, so I don't want to waste too many of my kind of like one-shot victories, which Spectral can do and Thief can do. And so I've got a partially charged Spider, Corgi, Bard, which these two there are essentially to make sure that when this guy gets going, he's going to be just brutal, because they both bump up skill power, they both bump up movement speed. So really, the Spider's going to eat the Thief, and these guys are going to provide the muscle that are going to help this Genie essentially completely decimate this lineup. So let's check this out. So I'm going to eat the thief because if she starts casting misdirection during Genie's barrage, it's going to be ridiculous. Set this on auto. So my guys came out. As you can see, as soon as the bard empowered the Genie, it's completely over. It's not even a close call. So no one essentially got hurt on my team. Genie lost some health because of his cannon. But we've got Witch and everybody else had full strength. So that's really the huge advantage of Genie in certain expedition stages. Even in situations where you've got Bone Dragon, if you have your Genie double charged, again with the use of Medusa, and you throw in a Witch, he'll come out fast enough to actually get the barrage going. So he's a very good weapon to have in expedition. And I've talked about the Spider before being an amazing weapon, even at just a simple purple 3 stars. By the end of expedition, she's so big that she's not terribly worried about loss of health. So Genie can be great in pretty much anything where there are multiple stages and you can get him charged up. So in your campaign, in the Molten Scar stage, where enemies are immune to magic damage, he's pretty lethal. He's great in certain temple situations. He's great in certain Colosseum situations. Again, since you're going to face some teams that are not going to do great against being barraged by massive physical damage, that's where you should look. If, of course, you face a team that's got an Orc Monk in it or a healer in it, Orc Monk takes away a bunch of physical damage, rather bashing damage. Well, that's primarily what Genie does. And healer takes away physical damage. So Genie is not great in contests against Orc or healer. But like I said, anything that involves a stage 2 is a very effective situation in which he can be used. He's also great in certain stages of boss pits, particularly when you're trying to knock back Venusia. His knockback repeated over and over and over once he gets going is basically impossible for her to stop. All right, so that is the profile on the Golden Genie. I think he's a wonderful but situational character. Obviously, he's not going to be run a lot in pit just because he takes so much damage and disappears and could be dead for the remainder of the fight. All right, I hope you enjoyed this Toon profile. This is ErgotProxy. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that red button. I would love to have more viewers, and it'd be great for folks to become masterful at this game.